sometime today. There we are. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fan Friction. I'm your host, Jack Shipley. Welcome to the show. We're glad to have you with us. Really quick, thank you very much to Tom Bennis, who was here for us last week. I lost my power. I couldn't host the show. He filled in and did an awesome job. So if you haven't checked that out yet, go see Jay Washington and company. They did a great show. Welcome to ours. Today, we're going to talk about a lot of awesome topics like novels and movies that are based on them. We're going to talk some video games. It's going to be fun. Let's get right into it and introduce our guests. Our first is a robotics engineer designing the robots that will kill us all in the very near future. Please welcome back to our show, Kim Hanley.
Hey guys, happy to be back. Looking forward to hopefully winning this time.
Oh, you'll do awesome. You are a great fighter. I'm really glad to have you back. Thank you for being here. Our next guest is a friend of the show and moderator of the Miss Movies channel here on YouTube. Please say hello to Randall Sands.
Hey everybody, so glad to be here. I guess hopefully this will be a full fight for me this time versus the last time. So
you're going to do awesome. I know you're nervous, but you're going to have a lot of fun today. So thank you very much for coming back. And finally, I'm very excited to introduce our last guest. She's a writer, comedian, actress, gamer with all kinds of awesome in between. Please welcome Charley Feldman.
Hey guys! I promised I wasn't going to be like all my Screen Junkies brethren and complain about the time. So I'm going to obliquely reference that I am tired instead of saying I am tired.
It might be 9 in the morning on the West Coast, but we appreciate you being here.
That's how you handicap us. I'm convinced.
It doesn't seem to be handicapping anyone from the West Coast, but we're going to try once more. Finally, guys, they are the hosts of BFF right here on the TUFF channel, and they're back today in our checker chair, making sure our guests can tell the difference between reality and the mad ravings of an evil clown. Please welcome back Ashley and Joe Davis.
Hey everyone.
It's more of a checker couch, but semantics.
Well, that's what you're here for.
We are. We love semantics.
So guys, if you're watching along at home, please join us on Twitter using hashtag #ThisIsTuff. That's TUFF. And they will be watching your tweets during the show, and they'll be happy to get your stuff in here in between each round. If you haven't seen the show before, watch some of the other episodes because I'm going to get right into it. Charley, you are our guest today, so you will be choosing the first category for our lightning round.
Okay.
And these are the categories. We have Rock You Like a Hurricane, She Blinded Me with Science, Gamer Grudge, Still Blinded by Science, or Clowns?
Gotta go. She blinded me with science. I'm a big 80s.
She blinded me with me too. I like this question.
All be in the house.
All right, so the rules are really simple. I'm going to read you guys questions and blurt out your answers. Whatever I hear first gets to keep it. If you say the same answer, then the second person or third person would have to pick another one. And then you guys will have 30 seconds and 20 seconds to debate it. So let's start with this question. What TV show features the best use of science?
Oh, wow.
Fringe.
Did you say Friends?
Fringe.
Fringe. Gotcha.
Although Friends would be hilarious.
I know. That's why I was like, that's going to be amazing.
I thought that's what he said for a second too. I was like, okay, that'll be fun to hear.
Awesome.
Airspeed velocity of this.
This will be fantastic.
Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Um,
Is there a specific Star Trek you're referring to?
Let's go with I know TNG the best, so I'll just do that. Next
Okay.
Generation.
Gotcha. Kim. The person who builds robots.
I know, that's a hard.
the original Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Ooh, nice.
There's actual science in that.
I heard
Hey,
best,
you could have
best use of
chosen
science. I heard best
You could have
use of
chosen science. All right,
I should
here we
not
go,
be
guys.
not being a smart.
This is awesome. We're going to start with Fringe. You'll have 30 seconds on the clock, Randall. It's a little longer than you're normally used to feeling of having to be quick. So just keep talking until you hear me ring the bell, okay?
All right.
Whenever you're ready, time begins when you start talking.
All right, so I think Fringe is one of the best use of science in a television show, mostly because J.J. Abrams, when writing this, he also incorporated like actual theoretical physicists and other things to make sure that the type of concepts that they were throwing in to interweave with the narrative of the story like worked. It was like scientifically as well, and a lot of it is theoretical out there, but they were trying to make sure they could be as accurate as they could with the theories that are being toyed around with in science today.
Awesome. Next is Charley with Star Trek: The Next Generation. Whenever you're ready.
So what I like about science utilized in television shows is what Roddenberry was all about. It's predictive science. It's the science of humanity and how we interact with people in the world around us. It's using science not as a didactic tool of like, this is how this works. It's this is who we are. This is how science integrates into our lives. And Next Generation specifically, it's very much about Picard and the family and using science as an imaginative tool of storytelling. So
Time. Ooh, very good. All right, Kim, hit us with some Bill Nye.
So the original Bill Nye the Science Guy, the premise was introducing kids to scientific concepts in a way that was actually interesting. You know, they're all learning it in school and they're all sleeping through the class, but when you get on a Saturday morning, you get a half hour of him just sort of breaking it down and putting it into a fun perspective that kids can easily relate to, and all they want to do is just, you know, try some of the experiments at home and build their own baking soda volcanoes and just run with the science that he's putting in front of them in a digestible way. And it was a great balance to all the Saturday morning cartoons that kids were watching on either side of him. He just sort of...
Time. All right, so you'll have 20 seconds, Randall, whenever you're ready to rebut. Begins when you start speaking.
I think Fringe, it does allow you, like, the same things that Charlie was bringing. Like, it did show you how science was moving things forward, and like, but they was doing it in a different route. Instead of advances in technology as itself, it was showing genetics side of it, where people are trying to genetically modify and creating basically monsters out of what's relevant today and things that are
Time. All right, Charlie.
The thing about Star Trek is there's a lot of predictive science in Star Trek. There are things that happen in Star Trek that are now actual science fact. And just that as a window into the future is absolutely sublime. Bill Nye, hard to argue against Bill Nye because Bill Nye is wonderful, but it is a dry science show that is just about teaching kids instead of having some sort of like overriding arc or narrative function. I love Bill Nye.
Kim, you get the last word.
So Fringe is science fiction. You know, you did mention that they brought in real theoretical physicists to try to make it grounded, but it's still theoretical physics. Most of those things could still wind up to be proven wrong. Star Trek, while it has inspired a lot of future scientists to invent the things they saw on the show, we're still not quite there yet. Whereas Bill Nye was giving kids that foundational science that they would need to go on to invent a tricorder.
Time. Oh, man, this is a really good round. All right, so I'm going to turn to Ashley and Joe to give me some input here because this is really tough. Ashley, let's start with you. What was your opinion of the round? Who did you think won?
All right, at first I was kind of on Charlie's side with, like, especially because she threw in a lot of like good like English teachery words like didactic and all those things. But then I thought that Kim really had the best balance of talking about how her show was relatable to kids and teaching them science, but also had rebuttals against both shows. So at the end of the day, I thought Kim had the best overall argument.
Joe?
I'm kind of there too. I was originally with Randall talking about the fact that it used theoretical physics, and initially I was like, oh man, it's totally, you know, that's part of science is the theory. But then they kind of both wailed on Randall's fact that all that stuff is super science fiction-y. Kim also brought up that a lot of the stuff in science fiction that is in Star Trek becomes science fact. The tricorder stuff. I know iPads were basically in Star Trek years ago, and that when she talked about that, that brought it up for me. So
although that was technically Charlie's point.
Oh.
Because Kim said that Kim's rebuttal was that not all of it has been fact. So that would actually be a push for Charlie.
Yes. I'm sorry. I heard that somewhere, and that's where my brain went. I was busy reading.
I was paying attention on my own show. That's all I'm saying.
All we smart blondes sound alike. I don't know what to tell you.
All right, so here's where I'm at. When I heard after hearing the first round, I thought Randall and Kim had the best opening arguments. But then once it came time for rebuttal, I found Charlie and Kim sort of took over. But I think Kim had the overall best theme. Teaching science to kids, it's actual science. How to make the tricorder was the thing that really sold me at the end. I'm going to give Kim the point, but it was a really good round. So well done, guys.
I agree. That was
real quick, there was a lot of commentary on here. A lot of love for Randall choosing Fringe just in general because they love that show. There were a lot of people that were like Mythbusters.
I would have gone Beekman's World.
Beekman was also fun.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who likes Big Bang Theory, but I might have mentioned that.
Jimmy Neutron and Family Matters also came up for various reasons, but
nice.
But there were a lot of people that were like Mythbusters, yo.
So Kim, that means you won the first point. You get to choose the order for the first round's question. Who would you like to go first? Who would you like to go second? And who would you like to go third?
Let's have Charley lead off.
Okay.
Randall can be in the batter's box, and then I'll round it out.
All right. I like baseball metaphor. Let's do this. Round one. It opened to stellar reviews and is in contention to be one of the best film adaptations of a Stephen King novel ever. So with that in mind, we're going to exclude it because it's really new and we didn't want to spoil it. It's a scary clown, though, if you haven't seen the trailers. So we want to know, what is the best film adapted from a novel? So Charley, you get to lead us off whenever you are ready.
Absolutely. I love this question. This is a question actually we were asked on Screen Junkies, and then it never came to air. So I was really happy to finally get to argue this. So my movie that I chose is based off a book that I think most people watching have actually read, because most people in schools had to read this. And I feel like this is the one book that most kids take away as a book that means something to them. And it became a movie that meant a lot to people. And I am talking about To Kill a Mockingbird. It's one of those adaptations that almost surpassed the original, because it is a story of justice. It leads the ranks of coming of age stories, of civil rights narratives, of court dramas. It's honestly one of the best performances you'll ever see of a lawyer. Gregory Peck is the embodiment of justice. He's the father you've always wanted. And not for nothing, the Library of Congress chose it as a movie to preserve. And unlike the other ones you're going to hear, it is the only one that has Academy Award for adapted screenplay. So adapted pretty well to get an Oscar for screenplay.
Awesome. Randall, which one did you pick, sir?
I went with Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton and directed by Steven Spielberg. I've always felt like this is a movie that has revolutionized cinema as a whole, like going forward. Like it changed the way movies are made. And I also think that for a lot of people, it's a very like easy jump on point for science fiction, the way the movie is done. And then like it gets you into themes that are a lot more like hard sci-fi that you would find once you get into reading the books. Like for me, of course, I saw that this was the first movie I saw as a child. It got me interested in reading about these like sci-fi books, and being able to go back and read Jurassic Park, like seeing it all unfold, like it's in the way it did, like it just seems like one of the perfect movies to be able to fall into this category. Like I'm not taking anything away from the other two. I think both movies that the others are fighting are fantastic films. I just think that this one is just a step above when it comes down to the whole picture.
All right. Kim, and you're last. What did you pick?
So I chose Bicentennial Man. It's with Robin Williams. It's based on the novel The Positronic Man, which is based on the novelette The Bicentennial Man. We'll get into a little bit of that later. But it's just an amazing story of an android who's unique. He has individuality, he has personality, and it's his story of trying to transcend the fact that he's a machine and an android and achieve humanity in a very real and tangible way. And there's a lot of parallels there that I'll touch on once we get into deeper detail, but it's just a really touching story. And Robin Williams does a phenomenal performance of trying to bring humanity to an android, as well as bringing rigidity to himself as he transitions from having an android appearance to a human appearance. He balances his own plasticity as a person against the rigidity of being an android character. And he just does a phenomenal job with it the whole way through.
Awesome. All right. And we're going to try a new feature this week where we give you guys 10 minutes to fight it out. So when you hear the buzzer, we'll know the time is up and we'll get to final thoughts. You may fight it out.
Bicentennial Man is a movie I actually do love, but I'm going to argue against it, even though I do come from a place of loving it and I love Asimov. It's not a movie that's well regarded. It's not a movie that's well regarded by pretty much reviewers, by Time, by people watching the film. It's one of Robin Williams' schmaltzy examples that people turn to of when he kind of went off the rails. And as an adaptation, it's just, it's upsetting in a lot of ways because it takes some narrative things from the story and puts a romance on it when I don't think it needed to. They put the romance that was only subtext and made it text, and I feel like as far as adaptations go, that's disappointing for me, that it couldn't just be about what makes us human. It's the fact that we die instead of in the fact that we love, which I feel is a little more generic.
Okay, well, as far as To Kill a Mockingbird goes, you know, it is a movie that everyone's watched, but most people haven't seen because they slept through it when they were in school. You know, everyone reads the book and then they see the movie in class, but no one's really paying attention to it. The lights are dark and the teacher's kind of zoned out too. It hasn't really stood up. It was lauded at the time that it came out. Tons of awards and accolades. It's on AFI's lists high. It's well regarded, but it's not a movie people actively seek out to watch. Like, nobody's sitting around on a Friday night going, man, I could just really go for some To Kill a Mockingbird right now. Like, it just doesn't happen.
We're not arguing most watchable. We're talking about best. And I have to disagree. I was very interested. I know many of my contemporaries and generations, because it's a generational movie. Through the generations, people have enjoyed To Kill a Mockingbird and have named their pets, have named their children after Atticus, after Scout, after Jem. It's just something that sticks with people because it's resonant. It talks about civil injustice. It talks about treating people fairly, regardless of the color of their skin or the background of their character. It's something that will never go out of style because it's always sadly pertinent.
And I can agree with that, but at the same time, like Kim was saying, like these, like when I'm thinking of like movies, I like, especially like when we're looking at 3 movies like this that are all regarded in a certain aspect to be good and decent movies, like we can all agree that we enjoy watching these films. But like when I think of like best films, I'm also thinking along the lines of like the general public and everyone being able to grasp and understand and enjoy the films for what they are. Whereas like Bicentennial Man, like you were saying, like I think it has a lot of themes that are great. I love these themes. I love the ideas that it puts forward with like the ideas of consciousness and like what makes people human and things of that nature. But I think for the general public, it would make those things are a little bit harder to grasp, or they're just things that people aren't interested in seeing. And I think, and on top of that, I felt that outside of Robin Williams in that film, I felt that most of the characters were robots in themselves. Like they were just very monotone. Like they seemed less alive than the robot, which kind of threw me out of that film.
And the addition of Galatea was such a bummer. That character Galatea is so unfortunate. It's this other robot that they bring in that could possibly be like the Robin Williams character. And she's this feminine stereotype who he immediately hates, which I think is a bummer. He also hates her because I think it's a reflection of his robotic self back at him. And he treats her nastily. And I don't know what that says to the themes of the movie, but I don't think it reflects well on the adaptation of the book. And to get to Jurassic Park for a second, everybody loves Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is a rewatchable movie for the ages as well. But as far as an adaptation goes, it's family friendly, whereas the book is not. The book is extremely dark. The book has a lot more science to it and gore. So as far as adaptation goes, it's a watered down adaptation of a book that has a lot more deeper, darker themes.
But I still find that a lot of those themes are still prevalent in this version of it. But I feel that because it is accessible to everyone, it'll also allow people, like, say, if they do enjoy these themes, to, hey, I'm going to go check out this book. And they're going to get more out of it out of the book than they might have in it, which in turn could enhance their like feelings about the movie. Like that's how at least I look at it, because it's kind of hard to like really take a book and then turn it to a movie, like because there's so much that gets lost in between. Like, and I just felt like Spielberg took the bare bones of what that book was, threw in some of the themes, and made it a fun, fast-paced like blockbuster that he's done numerous times before. Like he just took everything he's learned over the years and just threw in a fast-paced movie that also happens to be one of the greatest selling movies of all time when it came out. Has a great score. Like
And the book is too. The book is a blockbuster too. The book was a heavy hitter on the shelves of New York Times and things like that. But the book and the movie don't stick to your bones. They're not movies that are deeply resonant that'll surpass itself. It's something you're watching and you enjoy and you can quote after, but it's not something that makes you think. And if I want a book to really like stick with me as someone who loves literature, I want something that's going to be really deep and really informative of our time and who we are as people and what growing up feels like. To Kill a Mockingbird has all of that, and it's something you don't ever forget.
Kim, I want to hear more about your movie.
So with Bicentennial Man, yes, it's sort of pushed down the ladder as far as Robin Williams movies go because of how he's treated as a comedian and performer. But I mean, the parallels between his attempts to achieve recognition as a human and the struggles that various minorities, especially more recently, have gone through in trying to achieve the same thing, actively having their rights suppressed, told they're not equivalent to, full-fledged humans, pushed down that ladder. That's something that resonates deeply with people. There's a quote from his speech at his final petition to be recognized as a person as he's finally aging and given up his immortality, that he would rather spend one day as a human than eternity as a robot. Like that's the thing that people are fighting for in these rights battles. They want to just be recognized as who they truly are. And if that doesn't hit you where it hurts, I don't know what would. I mean, it's such a powerful message to try to get across, and making it, using Robin Williams as a comedian, makes it a lot less drama. It makes it easier to sort of put yourself into the movie and let the message just kind of wash over you towards the end as you see him evolve into that humanity. And I mean, I don't know. It hits me especially hard. It's something that resonates with me personally, so that's why maybe I was a little biased when I picked it. But I absolutely love that message and what it brings to the table, and I think it's something that shouldn't be overlooked just because Robin Williams was also in these other comedies that everyone loves more.
And the messaging in the movie is phenomenal. He takes on human parts to try to pass more as human, even though he was human the entire time. They just didn't recognize it. Like, that's mind-blowingly beautiful as a message to people who are struggling with issues of not being recognized for who they actually are. But as a movie, it does meander a lot. It goes a long way to get to the points it wants to get to. And I feel like if it was a tighter script and if the other characters around him were a little more fleshed out, it would have been something even better. But I honestly do think Bicentennial Man doesn't get enough credit for the things it does really well. And I liked it a lot when I saw it in the theaters and when I rewatched it.
And to kind of flip that back on you a little bit, as far as meandering goes, To Kill a Mockingbird, at least for me personally, the bit that I find longstanding relevant is the court case, the court scenes themselves, that progression, but you don't get there until halfway through the movie. The whole first half of the movie
because it's not all about the court case. It's about the family drama and the slice of life in the South.
Kids, but that's the thing, is the first half of the movie is just following poor rural Southern kids meandering through life.
Absolutely setting the backdrop of where this court comes from, why this is so important, who these kids are, who this man is to these kids. You have to get to that before you get to the courtroom drama, or else it doesn't have the same sort of impact and resonance.
So here's what I want to do. So this is perfect. Oh, sorry. Well, we have about 45 seconds till the timer goes off, so I'm going to stop it and say this is the perfect time to get final thoughts. What I'd like to know is from all of you, how is your movie the best adaptation of its book, and then thus the best movie? So Charley, why don't you start us off here with final thoughts?
With To Kill a Mockingbird, you already have from Harper Lee one of the most important and most beloved books, and then the movie on top of it is even better somehow. You don't only have a face to these characters, you get a depth and a breadth that just enlarges what the themes in the books are, what these relationships are. It takes what's on the page and puts it in front of you as this narrative that sticks to your bones and makes you think about the world around you in a different way. And I think that's what good narrative does, what good literary book. I can't talk today. What good books do, and what a good movie should do. It was awarded for these reasons. It's in the Library of Congress for these reasons. Gregory Peck is forever remembered. He's actually voted the #1 hero of the 20th century by AFI is Atticus Finch. It's just a movie that will surpass all generations because of its quality, because of its depth, and it's timeless as it is entertaining.
Randall.
For me, like this, all of it's going to really come back to me is like what people are willing to watch like on a consistent basis. Like I take nothing away from any of these movies. I really do think that they're all fantastic and everyone should see them. Like, but like for me, like Jurassic Park it revolutionized cinema. It took it to a place that people didn't know it could be. Like it gave us shirtless Jeff Goldblum. Like without that, like where would we be today? And like I think that it's like one of Spielberg's like tightest films in terms of like how everything is paced, and like it just moves perfectly. Like there's no lulls in it. The acting is phenomenal. The character moments between them are great. Like between all that, like so I don't know. It's just it really comes down to like to me for this, like what are you more willing to, I guess, watch on a regular basis? I think that all these movies have messages that are important to like certain people in certain ways. You'll find something in all of them. I just feel that it all comes down to what are you more willing to be able to put in and watch on a regular basis and get something from.
Kim, final thoughts.
So Isaac Asimov is the father of modern robotics largely. Most of his hard science fiction has become science fact as both a roadmap and a guidebook for robotics engineers as we've tried to make science fiction reality. And this movie in particular was an opportunity to take his books, which aren't as widely read as To Kill a Mockingbird and many others because they're not covered in schools, and put that material in front of people in an accessible and approachable way. And I think that has a tremendous amount of value for furthering both science fiction as a drama and as a genre, and for understanding this field of science as a whole. And it just was a solid opportunity to put material in front of people where they wouldn't normally get to exposure to it.
Awesome. Sounds great. Guys, great fight. Wow, what a good first round. Let's go to Ash and Joe to get some thoughts here on some facts. Don't forget to unmute. There you go. And let's hear what Twitter also thought.
All right, so factually, pretty clean round. It has been brought up about Bicentennial Man not doing too well with critics, and going by the Rotten Tomatoes metric, 37% with critics, 58% with audience. It didn't even make its budget back worldwide. There are many differences between Jurassic Park the novel and Jurassic Park the movie. There's a great video from Cinefix that talks about the differences. If you want to look that up for yourself, I won't go over all of them. But, still a good adaptation. It's not like critically panned or anything. Many differences between the To Kill a Mockingbird novel and book as well, trying to condense that down. And it is in the National Film Registry. And also, speaking to the relevance of To Kill a Mockingbird a few years ago, they actually aired To Kill a Mockingbird on the USA Network uninterrupted for the 50th anniversary of the film because, again, of the cultural relevance, especially with the trial. And our cat's name is Atticus because...
Oh my God! That's what you said, Joe. Remember that.
Twitter has a lot of very interesting other alternate ideas. I'll wait until you're done with your judgment for the poll. Some other ones that popped up on Twitter were Holes, Jaws, Fight Club, The Godfather, The Green Mile, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, American Psycho, Fellowship of the Rings, and on YouTube we had The Shining and Apocalypse Now pop up. And I'm sure there were others that I missed. But that's about it for alternate suggestions. There's a lot of fun chat over at the hashtag This Is Tough thing going on there. Some talk of shirtless Goldblum. And Nolan Dean was giving us a link to his Movies and Me episode featuring Mrs. Davis talking about To Kill a Mockingbird. And like I said, I'll just hold the poll until you're done with your judgment.
The poll sounds dirty. All right. So, guys, this was a really good fight for me. I thought you guys did really well. All three of these are admittedly great movies. I think the weakest for me this is the only problem of calling this the weakest is I think that I can completely understand why, Kim, your pick is deeply personal to you. As someone who works in robotics, I could really feel like the connection you have to this movie, but I think they hit you really hard on just how the connectivity that an audience has with the film. While it's very good, I actually love that movie. I don't think that it hits audiences quite the way the other two do. So for me, it did come down between Charley and Randall. Both of these arguments were really fantastic. You can't deny the importance of To Kill a Mockingbird, Library of Congress, Atticus Finch being on the AFI, which I agree with. It's a really powerful movie, and I really love the use of the word schmaltzy during the argument, even though that was about Kim's. I wrote down schmaltzy because I love it. Randall, I think with yours as well, just how approachable it is to audiences and how people go back to rewatch it and sitting at home wanting to rewatch a movie like that's the one you go to. So for me, this is really tough. I'm torn somewhere between Sticks to Your Bones and Shirtless Jeff Goldblum.
As we all should be.
I think it's something Kim said that is going to determine the winner for this round. When Kim talks about how we're all sitting in class and the lights are dark and we're all trying to just get through To Kill a Mockingbird, and we're like happy that there's a movie playing, but at the same time, sometimes it can get really boring and heavy. But I think dinosaurs kind of win all the time. It's really great adaptation. Randall, I'm giving you the point. Good job, buddy.
Yes.
Fun
One with
fact.
your
That's all I needed.
The last time we
One
showed
point, I'm good.
Mockingbird in class, because we don't have time to watch movies because, you know, standardized testing. Like I had kids get literally upset like during the trial scene, and they were totally engaged in the movie. Just saying.
Oh no, I love that movie when I was in high
And they
school.
were like, "Oh my God, Miss, why she's lying?" They were so mad at Mayella.
And I can't imagine a remake of that movie because I don't know if anybody could ever top Gregory Peck's performance as Atticus Finch.
So good.
Some movies just never need to be touched. Like just
Oh,
leave them
God.
the way they are.
So what did the poll say? I'm curious what the poll thought.
The polls are going to disagree with you. To Kill a
This will not be the
Mockingbird
first time.
written, and this is of 10 votes at the time I'm reading this. 80% of the vote is for To Kill a Mockingbird, and 20% is for Jurassic Park. Bicentennial Man unfortunately didn't get anything.
Well, that one person, or the two people,
Of
who
the,
were on my side.
this is the only one I've personally seen in the theater is Bicentennial Man.
You've never seen Jurassic Park in the theater?
Not in the theater.
Wow, we saw it the other. Remember, we went to see it at that
I don't
re-release.
count if it's not.
All right, guys, so we're making good time here. Let's move on to round two. Since Randall, you won, why don't we pick you next for the category choice? We're going to do our second lightning round. We got the following categories: Rock You Like a Hurricane, Game or Grudge, Still Blinded by Science, or Clowns.
I guess let's do Rock You Like a Hurricane.
Rock it like a hurricane. All right. As you all know, we've had some hurricanes lately, and they have affected almost every show. Kim is in Florida. We're glad to see that you were able to make it and that you're doing okay. Ashley and Joe live in Texas. They were affected by Harvey. So it's a big story right now. So why not make a joke of it and talk about movies? So the question I have for you is this. What movie has the best weather event?
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Oh.
That's awesome. Great pick.
I'm gonna go Twister.
Twister for Randall. Wonderful. And that leaves Charley.
I'm gonna go Magnolia.
Magnolia. Perfect. Okay, so Kim, you're going to start us off. You'll have 30 seconds on the clock. Your time begins when you start speaking.
So Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, it's just a fun, engaging kids movie. Parents can enjoy it too. There's a lot of puns and wordplay in there, especially once the food starts raining down. The weather event in question is literal raining food. You know, your smorgasbord of choices. They open a restaurant with no ceiling at one point where you can just order off a menu and it drops onto your table as you order it. It's just a fantastic, fun, lighthearted movie that just, you know, plays off that weather element. It's originally based on a book, so call back to the last question. Maybe I can redeem myself a little bit.
Time. Randall.
For me, like Twister has this one scene in the movie where they're at the movie theater and they're all inside the building and the tornadoes are coming through and it just rips the roof off the thing. And for me, like that whole scene, it just seemed so real to me because I have experienced like tornadoes here in North Carolina where we've that have come right through our neighborhood and things like that. So like seeing the terror that those people experience while watching that, like harken back to, like, called back to experiences that I've had in my own life with tornadoes and all of that.
Time. And we're glad you're still here to argue with us today. Charley.
So Magnolia is already this Paul Thomas Anderson, high melodrama, great characters, great acting. And then you get this event where frogs rain down from the heavens as its own weather event. And a character, the young boy, says, this is a thing that happens. It punctures the drama and the realism with a surrealistic touch that is memorable and something that the audience has never seen before. It's an event that unifies the characters and makes it even more interesting that anything can happen.
All right. So Kim, you get rebuttal first. 20 seconds whenever you're ready.
So in a lot of instances, weather is portrayed as a bad thing, especially in a movie like Twister, where it's a natural disaster level weather event. You know, it doesn't always have to be framed that way. You have opportunities like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Singing in the Rain, where you can make weather a positive experience for the audience, because most people don't want to trudge out of the theater in the rain or in a, you know, bad weather situation, but it's an opportunity to sort of flip that script.
All right, Randall.
And while I enjoy both of their choices, I when you say weather event, like I think of an actual weather event. Like I can connect to tornadoes coming through, whereas I can't really connect to frogs or food falling out of the sky. So for me, like a real weather event, like I can connect to that on a personal level. So for me, that it's always going to trump something that seems fake.
Time. All right, Charley.
A real weather event, however, unreal science. You cannot strap yourself together on a pole and survive a tornado that is right above you. That is bad science and a bad weather event in a movie. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, I often wonder what happens when it goes bad. So you just have moldy food that's lying around you. What sort of infrastructure do you have to create?
Time. All right. I like, though, how you said bad science, but only pointed it towards Twister, and yet Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is literally about raining food. But that's okay. Let's go to Joe first. Joe, which one did you like the best?
They're all fantastic arguments. I really enjoy Kim's pull for the fact that, like, not all terrible weather has to be terrible with the Cloudy and a Chance of Meatballs kind of thing. And it's kind of fun and lighthearted. So I that actually spoke to me a lot. So I'm going to go with Kim's.
And how about you, Ash?
I was leaning more towards Randall because, like, again, going with, like, when you think weather event, you think of something that can actually happen, and the other two are definitely more fantastical. And I think maybe we've seen raining frogs before in, like, the Bible.
Yeah, no, it has. It has rained frogs.
In one of those Bible movies I can't remember that we had to watch at school.
Ten Commandments.
Okay, I don't remember. That's the one I fell asleep during in school.
So I got one for Kim, one for Randall. I was actually leaning between Kim and Charley, but boy, I really liked Randall's rebuttal. That you can connect to the weather event, like that it was more real to you than the other two. I actually thought that was a really fantastic rebuttal. Oh boy, this is actually tough. I'm leaning. I could go the tie with the frogs, but I really like the raining food. A guy who loves food. You're speaking to me now. It's really, really close. I'm going to do this. I'm going to give you all an extra random amount of seconds. Let's go 8. You all have an additional 8 seconds to sell me on your pitches because they're really that close. Kim, you're going to start. Whenever you're ready, 8 seconds. I need more time.
I kind of burned everything I had. 8 more seconds.
Surprise. I'm doing something I've never done before.
Yeah. Okay, so you said you can connect more to Twister because it's a realistic event, but sometimes you want something that you can't connect to. You want that fantastical, something that just blows your mind out of the water, and it's not something grounded and real and gritty.
All right, Randall.
Man, this is a tough one. You just throw me under the. I hate this.
I've never done this before, but I know the speed round too. But let me. I need more, Randall. You're right there. Give me one more thing.
Like, other than just counteracting the bad science, like there are times where they use good science, where they're sending little probes up into the twister to get data. Like that was new science at the time that they used.
All right. Awesome. Good enough. Charley, close us out. 8 more seconds.
Not only is it biblically known, it's actually an event that did happen. Frogs did get connected into a water spout and did fall on a town. You can look that up. So this is something that you could connect with and be fantastical.
Time. I like the lighthearted food. I'm going with Kim.
Fair enough.
Very well done. So that means, Kim, again, you're going to get to choose round 2 here. What order would you like to go in?
Let's see. Randall go first. I'll go in the middle, and then Charley can bring up the rear.
All right. You got it. That is the official "You're Going in the Rear" song. Let's go with the question. What round 2? So we're going to switch it up a little bit, and we're going to include a bit of video game into our narratives here. What video game or video game franchise should be made into a 10-episode Netflix series? You don't have to pitch the whole series per se, but just give me an idea of what you're going to go with. Randall, you get to start us off whenever you're ready. What did you pick?
For me, I'm going with The Legend of Zelda. And I'm choosing this specifically because it doesn't really need, you don't have to actually base it off any particular game in particular. Like the franchise in itself has thousands of years of lore that takes place over a very, very weird timeline. So we can go ahead and get that out of the way. It has a very convoluted timeline, of course, if you base it off of all that. So I think it's something that it has enough heart and characters that can be translated into like a high fantasy sort of style show, and it would work well. And the reason I think that specifically is because it is because the characters don't have there's a mystery to a lot of them outside of each story that they tell in the games, like who they are, how they continually keep being reincarnated throughout time. But I think that it would play well in a show, being able to finally see these characters played out in real life. I know that a lot of people have been clamoring for something like this. I know even Netflix has approached Nintendo to try and do it in 2015. Right. I don't know if that's something that's still happening, but at the same time, I feel like, especially with the game that came out in February, it's a good time, like right now, with popularity being on a high, to do something like this.
Awesome. Kim, which one did you pick?
So for this, I chose to do a 10-episode series of Mario Kart. Taking a racing concept and putting it into a children's friendly show is something that's been done before. We've got Wacky Races, Laugh Olympics, Speed Racer. There was a Hot Wheels mini series back in the mid 2000s that did pretty solid. So the concept works strong, and I think that it's an opportunity for Netflix to prove to Nintendo that they can handle the intellectual property, the characters, because Nintendo's been very skittish about their intellectual property ever since Super Mario Brothers. So it's a chance for them to say, hey, we can take all of these different IP that you have, use them effectively and in tasteful ways that you're going to approve of, and that can open the door for other opportunities and really grow the bond between Netflix and Nintendo into a strong multi-series kind of deal. And I think it's just the best way to open that door and step into that up front.
Awesome. Charley, which one did you pick?
So this one's deeply personal for me, guys. I chose not only my favorite game that ever was, it's something that I truly believe deserves to be adapted into something, into a movie, into a series, and I'll tell you why it should be a series. I feel, and I'm going to say both its titles because it was released under 2 different titles, Final Fantasy III or Final Fantasy VI. I'll just say Final Fantasy VI because that's the order of Final Fantasy. Anyway, if you don't know, Final Fantasy series is an RPG series that is based on characters and story and gorgeous visuals. And Final Fantasy VI specifically has one of the best stories, probably the best story in any game in all of gaming history. You have visuals like airships and Moogles and mech battles and magical creatures. But you also have the interpersonal conflicts that are necessary to continue a narrative. It's something that has a strong villain in Kefka, a villain that we've never seen before. He's not just a clown, but he's a menacing evil that is funny, but also terrifying. You can see how a series would plan out when it's the world of balance and things are normal and you're thinking, oh, this is a fantasy show, until boom, you're in the world of ruin and things go to shit. And these characters who you fell in love with have to change and grow and come together to beat the big bad. I want to see this so badly. I would give organs.
Awesome. You can keep your organs for the fight.
Yes!
And guys, get in on it. Let's go.
So the strength of Mario Kart is that it's flexible. You can do 10 episodes as a single one-off thing and just be done with it, or you can do multiple seasons as they race for various cups. You know, the Mushroom Cup, Star Cup. You have the chance to revisit different tracks, different races. And the idea here is that the characters start out, they're all individual racing, but then they're also parts of teams, kind of like how NASCAR works in the real world. There's larger racing teams that everyone belongs to. So you can have the character dynamics of people changing teams, you know, people that are traditionally Nintendo heroes joining one of the other teams that's, you know, they're paired up with Bowser for a race, or they switch sides because they're feeling underappreciated, kind of the, you know, always stuck coming in second place or drafting for the other guy, that kind of dynamic. You can bring that in there and really explore who these characters are beyond just their tropes of Mario being a plumber and Luigi being his brother. Like, you can really flesh them out and give them personality as the, you know, world grows and grows.
Blue Shell. So what are we seeing from week to week? Is it a drama that's revolving around Mario and Luigi? Is it Wacky Racers? Wacky Racers is it's such a silly, campy, wonderful, like, end of 70s, early 80s concept, but doesn't really translate into modern times very well. What are we seeing as a show? Why does it need to be a show? As far as Zelda is concerned, Zelda is one of my favorite games of all time, so this is very hard to argue against. But you're basing it on the character of Link, who is a cipher. He doesn't have a character. He doesn't even talk. So to base a show around him is probably one of the reasons why it's been shelved for so long. There's so much world, but not enough story. You go from dungeon to dungeon and fix problems, or solve problems rather, in puzzles. But there isn't really a narrative thrust besides Ganon's attacking. We need to save Zelda. So I don't know what I'm seeing as a show, whereas Final Fantasy VI has a really important story. It talks about an amnesiac who's trying to find who she is. There's a treasure hunter that's trying to, or thief that's trying to redeem himself. There's a prince who doesn't want to be a prince and is shying away from that narrative. It's got everything. It is dense. It is ready for prime time.
And that's my only issue with it, because I do love the whole story of Final Fantasy. Like, you are correct, like, when saying, like, it is a great story. And my only issue with doing something like a Final Fantasy game is there's so much and it's so dense and you have to unpack so much that I feel that in 10 episodes, if it is a one-off or something like that, there's still going to be stuff that gets left out that a lot of fans are going to either be upset about or wish other ways.
Was Game of Thrones left out? You had a series long of these stories being unfolded and unpacked because you took the time, and that's what TV does and movie does not. I would see your argument if this was a movie, but as a TV show, you do have the time to reach to each of these characters and get where they're coming from and where they're going, and that's why it's specifically good for TV. Whereas Zelda, it might make a good movie, but there isn't much to unpack. It's very straightforward, and I don't see how it would improve as a TV show. Allow for it. And speaking of, Kim, I love Mario Kart too, but what are we seeing? What is the actual show? You're describing gameplay of, like, you draft behind people, but what does a week to week look like?
But that is sort of there's going to be a back and forth week to week. There'll be actual on the track races. Like I mentioned at the top, there was a Hot Wheels mini series in the mid 2000s. It was World Racers. There was a combination of off the track interaction between the different teams and the different characters. They're, you know, interpersonal, as they want to be the best, they want to be the greatest, but there's, you know, the favorites on the team, the guy that the captain of the team wants to see win, so everyone else is supposed to take the back seat. So there's those interactive dynamics, and then you have the action of the actual races where they're on the track and they're jockeying for position and they're passing and making shortcuts, and all the sort of things that are traditional to the gameplay translates into the actual shows very, very well. I mean, you know, I mentioned Wacky Races and you backed it up. It's a fun, lighthearted approach to it. Speed Racer is lighthearted, but a little bit more serious on the racing side of things. And you can blend those elements together to where they are racing hard, they're racing serious, but it's still Nintendo. At the end of the day, they're still, you know, cartoon characters having fun, but they're, you know, making something out of it. And Legend of Zelda, we've been down that road before. There was an attempt to do a Zelda cartoon.
It was the greatest cartoon ever. Just throwing that out there. I love the Zelda cartoon. Before you sing all over it,
not everybody's going to get on that bandwagon with you there, Jack, as far as that goes. And I mean, yeah, you have a character that he doesn't have a whole lot to say, and to try to give him a voice in a 10-episode show like that, when there's that, like you said, thousands of years of lore, and he's been reincarnated, the characters are over and over again. So which one do you pick? Do you make a new one? Do you try to grow one of the existing ones? Like,
well, that's where I see the beauty in it. It's like you have the ability to either take one of the game storylines and rework it, or you can either add and make your own storyline altogether. Like, it doesn't always have to follow the same path of get a sword, go cave diving, and then and save the princess, because
that is the story.
I would say that is a gem.
He wakes up and then he has to go save Zelda.
Because there's plenty of times where Zelda doesn't need to really be saved. Like, if we take Ocarina of Time, like, she's basically a secret ninja on top of that, and a badass that can take care of herself.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not even entirely just he has to save Zelda. It's more or less he's saving the realm from the evil that is Ganon. Like, because he's over here tapping into these deep powers that are deep-seated in evils from the beginning of creation. So it comes down to...
But what does a week-to-week look like? Going back to Mario Kart real quick, you set a lot of precedent for what we've already seen before. We've seen Speed Racers, Wacky Racers, and the Matchbox show, or Hot Wheels. So it has been done before. It's something we have seen before, whereas Final Fantasy VI is something we have never seen before. This is a thing that has never existed on TV. It is groundbreaking television. It's event television. It's what Game of Thrones will need after it.
I say
it's been a fantasy show, though. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. Well, you're talking about wizards and warriors, knights, and
it's not just wizards. It's
I mean, it's all been done. It's all being done.
Yeah, let's be honest.
There's never been a steampunk show like Final Fantasy VI could be. It is magic, but it's also science. It's airships. It's that sort of aesthetic that has never been, except for anime, but it's never been on a live action stage.
Yeah, if it's considering it live action, but like, if we're considering anime and stuff like that as, like, if it wasn't considered as a TV show, like, yeah, like, it has been done in those senses. There have been a lot
but never live action. It has never been like. Wouldn't you want to see a live action Moogle?
All right, so
I want a Moogle.
This lends me a question then. So I'm going to start getting into final thoughts in just a moment. But Charlie, I have a question. You're saying then your show is a live action version of Final Fantasy VI?
Oh God,
okay,
yes.
so you're going live action. Kim,
it's taking the place of what Game of Thrones is going to leave behind. It's taking up that.
You're really going for it.
I want this show.
Kim, same question: animated or live action?
No, mine would be animated.
Okay, and then Randall.
I would prefer it live action, but I'd take it any way it comes at this point. Like, this is just one of those series that, like, I want to see. Like, this is the series that I want I want hands down. Like Charlie wants Final Fantasy, I want Legend of Zelda. That's just, like, that's my favorite game franchise. It's just how it is. Like, I have so much love for it. So
do you have any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. In terms of, like, Mario Kart, I'm just going to reiterate some of the stuff that, like, Charlie had brought up as well. Like, the week to week does definitely, like, pose problems. Are we just following one set of characters? Are we following many sets, like, throughout the whole series? But, like, when it really comes down to it, when I think of Mario Kart and then, like, a film, like, especially animated, I'm thinking Wreck-It Ralph. Like, Wreck-It Ralph is the first thing that comes to my mind. Like, they did it in a sense, and it worked out well there, but, like, I feel like if they came in with Mario Kart now, it would have almost seemed like they were just trying to, like, capitalize on a similar style of movie or TV show.
You're right.
So, yeah.
Kim, final thoughts.
So just to kind of push back on that a little bit, it's the kind of thing where this is a hole in children's television right now. There's been resurgence of this type of show, these competitive nature shows. Like right now, there's a lot of Steven Universe and Gravity Falls and things of that nature, but there's not really anything in this genre for kids cartoons. And I think there's an opportunity to put something in there that can bring Nintendo back to the forefront for kids and give Netflix the opportunity to say, hey, we can do this. And then maybe they get a green light to do a Zelda show, or they get a green light to explore other areas of Nintendo by proving that they can handle this first.
Okay, and Charlie, close us out.
If Nintendo Switch sales are any indication, Nintendo's fine. Nintendo is way in the public consciousness. Breath of the Wild is doing great. I'm not hearing what the show really is, what we're seeing week to week with Mario Kart. I don't know what show I'm tuning in for, except for the fact that it's fun and it's cartoon racing. That's great, but what else is there? With Zelda, I can't believe you're making me argue against Zelda. But Link is a cipher. He's not a character you can latch onto. That is why it's been so hard to bring it to life. It's just something that doesn't have a week-to-week story that is dense enough to sustain a television series. Final Fantasy VI is dense enough, beautiful enough, deep enough to sustain a series. It has characters that are complicated and dark. There are situations that have never been shown on any sort of TV medium or really even in film, between the Colosseum matches and the opera scene with fighting an octopus on an opera stage. It's just bananas. It's something that is going to be landmark television, that it's going to change the landscape. How could you not want to see it?
Awesome. Great fight. Oh, that was awesome. Let's go.
Zelda!
Let's go over to Octorox. I remember that original commercial.
Ultra!
Yes.
Yeah. That commercial was great.
Is really
Oh,
rad.
no.
I love that.
Flavors or something. I don't even remember that commercial, but it's so great.
The guy with the leather jacket that was all cool and his geek, like stereotype geek friend. The Japanese Legend of Zelda commercial is way better though. There's like
It is.
River Dance.
It is. So
All
give
right.
me some facts. What did the Twitterverse have to say?
All right, factually, a pretty clean round. Apparently, as of September 8th, Mario is no longer a plumber, according to the Japanese Nintendo website, heavily reported on by many media outlets. I don't know what Mario's job is, but it's not like he's done a lot of plumbing, you know.
He's collected so many gold coins over the years. He doesn't really have to work.
I was going to say he's kind of a mushroom farmer, isn't he? At this point.
I'm not sure. All these franchises are pretty old, with the Mario Kart specific franchise being the youngest at 25 years old. I cannot believe that it was 25 years ago that we got our first Super Mario Kart game. There's a lot of speculation about the Legend of Zelda Netflix show. Like, some are saying that no, that was mistaken information, but then other people are saying that it's being moved forward and it's going to be akin to Game of Thrones. There was some confusion with that Amazon show about Zelda Fitzgerald. People thought that was going to be about the Legend of Zelda. Speculation in that area. And all of these franchises, except for Mario Kart, have had some kind of like cartoon, like y'all mentioned, the Legend of Zelda cartoon, Excuse Me, Princess, that only had 13 episodes in '89. Used to air alongside Captain N and the Game Master, or whatever that show was called. Fun times. There's been several Final Fantasy animes, TV series, and movies. The most recent one, Kingsglaive and Brotherhood, related to Final Fantasy 15. And a lot of weird Mario shows, Super Mario World, Super Mario 3, Super Mario Brothers Super Show. So, they're, in the realm of having had media properties before.
Joe, what did Twitter say?
Twitter's got a lot of interesting suggestions. There's a lot of love for all these around. Uncharted, Heavy Rain, Final Fantasy X, Dragon Age, Pokemon, Fallout, Grand Theft Auto, Final Fantasy VII, Life is Strange, Mega Man, Tekken, Zelda also was brought up in the chats, Mega Man X. Someone brought up Seaman from the
Oh my god!
And I have
to bring up Seaman in the comments.
That can only work if Gilbert Godfrey does the voice.
I actually would pick The Last of Us. I mean, I love all the picks that were given, but The Last of Us for me was the most recent game narratively that really like kind of stuck with me, especially because I love the zombie genre and everything. So guys, yeah, it's true. So guys, this was a fantastic fight. Lot to unpack here. I think Mickey's Roadster Racers, I think it's currently called, is the current like Disney offering of a premise of characters you recognize racing around. But I kind of agreed with Charlie and Randall that it's hard to see the focus of just like the racing being, especially with Mario characters, being the appealing factor that brings kids in. It really kind of fell for me between Zelda and Final Fantasy. Both of these arguments were really great. I can see reasons to have both of them be important. I thought Charlie's arguments were very personal and focused heavily on the narrative story. I think Randall's was also personal and focused more on the character of Zelda and how important the character was. They're both live action. I think for me, the thing that's going to determine the winner was, I think Randall, if you had given me a story from Zelda and specifically picked one of the shows to say, like, I'm starting with A Link to the Past, which by the way is the best Zelda story ever. You know, I'm just going to Mike Penn that. I think if you had given me like a specific narrative to follow, I think that would have been the combat you needed to hit the Final Fantasy. I think Charlie definitely wins the point for me on this round. Good job.
I want to go with Twilight Princess. Not that it's the best of all the stories, but it's just so weird and the werewolf aspect of it. I don't know.
I also love Wind Waker. Wind Waker is such a great, underrated Zelda movie, Zelda game.
Yeah.
Its animation was so different; it was off-putting to some people because it didn't feel like a normal Zelda game. But if you play that game, it's got all the heart of Zelda with the great music and piratey themes.
Yeah.
It's so good.
You have to blow on it.
Throw this out there. Jack D. Manheim agrees. He also posted a picture of Kefka, and we're both over the hashtag Kefka was right.
What was the poll result?
The poll results as of the time that I am looking at them is 8% Mario Kart, 42% Legend of Zelda, and a flat 50% for Final Fantasy VI.
All right, so they agree with me on that one. Guys, the scoring right now, Kim, you have 2 points. Charlie, you have 1. Randall, you have 1. No one is out of it. We're going to move into the final lightning round question. Randall, you get to pick. Right? Is it you or Kim? Who didn't pick?
I picked last time. I think Kim.
Kim, it's your turn. Sorry. We have 3 left. Gamer Grudge. She still blinded me with science and clowns.
Let's go clowns.
Clowns.
I probably should have gone science again, but I'll go clowns.
You're doing fine in the speed rounds, so I don't think you have anything to worry about here. Clowns, guys. What movie would make even the happiest clown sad?
Aww. Oh man.
The Book of Life.
The Book of Life.
Room.
The Room.
No, Room.
Oh, Room.
Yeah, with Brie Larson.
Oh, Brie Larson.
A little bit different.
Oh shoot, what is that movie called? Dancer in the Dark.
Dance in the Dark?
Wait, I can't look it up. Damn it, it's the Lars von Trier movie. That's the most depressing movie of all time. Shoot.
I will allow a fact check if that is correct. You guys are allowed to tell me that that's the correct title, or if it's close enough. Lars von Trier. It's Dancer in the Dark. New York.
I can tell you the entire movie, but it's the name is. Oh no, you know what? Grave of the Fireflies. Grave of the fucking Fireflies. hard switch.
All right, there we go. All right, so I heard Kim first with Book of Life, then Randall with Room, and then Charlie. All right, Fireflies. And Kim, whenever you are ready, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, so the thing with clowns is unless you happen to be one of the few people who comes from a family of clowns, it's not a profession that most people are hoping for you to follow in their follow in the family line, go in their footsteps, become a clown as a profession. And the whole premise of the Book of Life is children living in their parents' shadows, parents wanting them to become a bullfighter, become a great warrior, and them trying to be themselves and become who they really are. And someone who wants to be a clown and their parents going, well, that's not a real job. That's not a real profession.
Time. Randall, whenever you're ready.
For me, like when I'm thinking of a especially if you're just trying to show someone that's going to make them sad, I'm thinking Room specifically because this is one of these soul crushing films that you're seeing this woman and this small child held against their will, and like this boy growing up in a place that he never knows what it's like in the real world and what it's like. And just seeing them go through this turmoil each and every day, having to deal with this guy that has held them captive, and then just the whole story it's just soul crushing.
All right, Charlie.
I'm gonna clutch myself. The most important thing to a clown is children. So Grave of the Fireflies is an anime about two adorable, wonderful children in Japan after the nuclear bombings of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. The entire movie, you fall in love with these characters and they starve to death. A clown would have to watch this movie and watch two beautiful children starve to death in a really dramatic way. It would be like a velvet painting of a clown crying, but like on a loop forever. These
Time. Oh my God. Why did I ask a depression clown question? All right, hang on 1 second here. All right. Kim, 20 seconds.
So while the other two movies are more of that general melancholy, depressing kind of movies, this is something that people can the clowns would actually connect to, that disappointing their parents by going into a profession that they don't want them to go into. It would hit them deeper on a personal, relatable level rather than just that general sadness of children dying or the general sadness of being kidnapped. It's just it's a different level of connection.
Randall.
So basically, I'm same thing. Basically, Charley, like she basically took the breath out of my argument, to be honest with you, because I was going with the kid angle as well. Just like seeing this poor kid going through this, and then just like not being able to experience life as a normal child. I feel like that would crush a clown's soul. Not be like I wouldn't even know if a kid like that would know how to react to a clown.
But it's still hopeful. He's still out of the end, and he's okay. And I mean, clowns know what they're getting into, not satisfying their parents. All of them know, just like all of us actors or comedians know, we're going to disappoint our parents. But with Grave of the Fireflies, they die in such a slow manner, and there's nothing the clown can do. He can't make them feel happy for a moment.
Time. Oh, this is really
Damn
tough.
it, Charlie. That was so good.
Wow, this is really tough. All right, guys, let's go to Ash. I'm going to need some help here. What did you pick?
All right. Very interesting choices from all of the fighters. I might have gone with Beasts of No Nation because of the child angle and all the horrible stuff that happens in that movie.
Totally.
I really liked Charlie's points about like clowns really love children, and I know Randall had that same angle, but I think she really sold it with rebuttal about clowns are going to disappoint their parents no matter what, and they can't help these children. And seeing like that movie is heart-wrenching. So I thought she had the best argument on both sides.
Joe?
I'm going to go with Kim, actually, because Kim was the only one that didn't make an assumption that clowns love their jobs. So, like, I can imagine there's quite a few clowns that freaking hate kids and all that jazz. So I'm going to go with Kim.
See, for me, the thing that stuck out about Kim's was she was making the assumption that the clowns weren't happy with their life choice, and that maybe clowns is exactly what they wanted to be. So that's, for me, that's why that didn't resonate.
No, that the parents aren't happy with the life choice, not that the clown themselves aren't.
Oh, okay. See, I think that because I misconstrued it that way, that's how I wrote. Unfortunately, I didn't feel that in the I got that mixed up when I heard the argument. So it did come down between Randall and Charlie. And even though Randall sort of was handing it to Charlie, there was something he said at the very end that stuck with me, and that's, how would he react to a clown? Like, how would he even react to a clown? And I was like, wow, like that's the thing. I think if a clown was watching, he'd be like, he doesn't even know that I'm there to make him feel better. Whereas I don't know, like the kids are just. This is really tough because both of these stories are pretty damn miserable. I'm really torn between the two of these. But since Charlie got a vote from Ashley, I'll give it to Charlie. Charlie, you get the point, but that was really close.
It's really worth seeing, though. I know it sounds depressing, but it's a beautiful anime.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and skip it now. But I want to be happy for the rest of the day. But
it will ruin your day.
The movie that Charlie was originally thinking is Dancer in the Dark. Lars.
It is Dancer in the Dark. Okay.
Would you have one with it? Who knows? So right now that makes us tied between Charlie and Kim, which means if Randall wins, so the last round is worth 2 points. So if Randall gets it, he wins. And if anybody gets it, they win. There will be no tiebreaker today. Charlie, you get to pick the final marching order for round 3, the mystery round. This one will decide it all. No one's had a chance to prepare for this round. You know your answer, but you don't know the other people's answers. So you have to decide, do you want to go first, second, or third?
I want to go third, but I'm going to put Randall up top and then Kim.
Okay. Randall, Kim, and we are ready to get into it. So we're doing the final round, the mystery round. What is the best movie with a character named Kim, Charlie, or Randall? And we were accepting any spelling for Charlie. And so we are going to start with Randall. Which movie and character did you pick, sir?
I went with Randall from Monsters, Inc. Mostly, and it's just.
Give it like a brief. Why is it the best?
Like I think that there's a lot of allegories that are in the themes of the film that play towards what's going on in our current society, especially with energy issues, corporate greed, stuff like that. I also think that it has a lot of stuff that deals with psychology and how I guess we respond to certain stimulus and that way. I think that it has tremendous heart, humor. It was Pixar showing off their technical wizardry as always, by them basically creating like an animating individual hair follicles for Sully and some of the other monsters. So I'm just gonna leave it at that, and we'll just go worry about the rest later.
All right, perfect. Kim, you are going to get to go second. I know we've had a lot of guesswork done with this one on Twitter because you are the pick for this week's BFF. What was your movie?
So the movie that I chose is The Pirates! In an Adventure with Scientists. So yeah, nobody was even remotely close on Twitter with the BFF. It's a movie by Aardman Studios. It's out of the UK. It's claymation, stop motion animation. They're really the workhorse of the stop motion industry, keeping it alive and well. Leica gets a lot of praise for their artsy stuff, but Aardman's the ones that are really, doing the groundwork to keep it alive and well with TV, music videos, everything else. But we're not arguing the studio, we're arguing the movie. And this movie is phenomenal. It's set during the era of pirates. They interact with Charles Darwin, which is how I managed to shoehorn this answer into this question, Charles and Charlie. And it's just a fantastic comedy. There's a ton of puns and wordplay just littered throughout, in the background, in the jokes, in their interactions. It works on kid level, adult level. That's something that Aardman is known for. Their movies are always multi-dimensional in terms of their comedy. And it's just a fantastic, fun time that you can just chill out, relax, and laugh at anytime you pop it in.
Awesome. And Charlie, you're closing us out. Which movie did you pick and what character?
I hate to seem like such a narcissist, but I also went for a Charlie angle. And I think the epitome of all that is Charlie's is Charlie Buckets from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Not only is it a movie that transcends generation like my first pick, it's also a movie that has heart and sweets and a moral center like it was nougat. Charlie Buckets specifically is important to the narrative, whereas I haven't heard that about either of the Charles and Randall's suggestions. Charlie is a bright spot in a dark world. He's the future of children, or how they should be, specifically in the movie, not so much the Roald Dahl book. But Charlie is the example set for how you should be as a human. You should be generous. You should be open-hearted and accepting. And he is a Charlie that I could be proud to share a name with.
Go for it. Fight.
Albeit different spelling.
So,
Kim, what is your movie title again? I don't know what the movie is.
It's The Pirates in an Adventure with Scientists. It's about a pirate crew led by the pirate captain. Like, that's literally his name, is Pirate Captain. And they're a lackluster group of pirates. They're, band of misfits. In the U.S., the title was actually changed to The Misfits because U.S. titling is stupid that way. And It's
Like,
just
Hasbro upset because of Gem. I mean, come on.
This is the Wallace and Gromit. This is the Wallace and Gromit studio, right?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
it's the same studio that does Wallace and Gromit. They also did Chicken Run, which is very well regarded from way back when. It's a hilarious movie. It's so fun. It's pirates. You know, there's a scene where they're trying to go and plunder, and every ship they go on just gets worse and worse. One of them, it's a geography field trip. It's just a bunch of school kids. One of them, it's a plague boat. And there's a joke in there where they land on the boat, give us your gold. And he's like, gold? I'd give my left arm for some gold. And his right arm falls off and he goes, or my right. And, I mean, it's just a ton of lighthearted comedy like that. It's so great. Willy Wonka is so depressing. Like, yeah, Charlie is somebody that you want to be like, you know, you should strive to be, but the other kids are just horrible. And the running theory is that Willy Wonka kills them. It's a murder movie.
That's internet fan theory. That's not actually in the film. That's us making fun because it's such
leaving alive. Those kids don't leave that building alive that we're shown. And
you never see them again.
The book is a lot darker. I mean,
the book is darker, but we're talking about the movie here. And unfortunately, yours is a movie that not anyone else really has seen. It sounds hilarious. It sounds beautiful and wonderful. But as far as movies go, it's just an untested property as far as this arguments can go. It's not something that has affected culture. It's not something that will last the test of time. I'm sure it's hilarious and beautiful. I'm going to absolutely watch it as soon as we finish here. And I don't know how Charles really figures into it, which was the crux of the question. And the same thing with Randall and Monsters, Inc. Randall's a fun character, but he's not really effective of the main narrative of Monsters, Inc. He's a side character, whereas Charlie Buckets is the movie. It's Willy Wonka and it's Charlie. It's Charlie's Chocolate Factory. It's his trials and tribulations as he goes through the factory and sees all the other kids break the wayside, which again, all the dark stuff is internet theory. That's not in the actual movie. That is fun conjecture we put on the movie itself. So you can't argue that because it's not real. It's not in the actual movie.
That's fair. I just think when you're saying you're saying Charlie, like when I watch like Willy Wonka, like I see Gene Wilder, like Willy Wonka was like, that's the character I was more interested in, like watching that film than Charlie or any. Like I could relate to Charlie, sure, being a small kid, wanting the mystery of all of it and being a part of it. But like I felt like the heart of the movie really was with Gene Wilder in the original version.
Without a doubt, Gene Wilder is what makes the movie work. But as far as the narrative goes, it has to be Charlie's story, and it is him driving the narrative. Willy Wonka is the fun side character. He's like the Bender of Futurama. He's really entertaining. He gets really great lines, but it's Fry's story. This is Charlie Bucket's story. Sorry, Charlie is something I hear. Or any sort of Charlie references. I, as a Charlie, hear all the time. Charlie is essential to this movie in a way your other movies are not.
Well, I disagree. I mean, Charles Darwin is essentially the antagonist in my movie. He's a critic. He's a critical character. In the pirates, their parrot isn't actually a parrot. It's the last dodo alive. Thought extinct. And when Charles Darwin, when they come across each other out at sea, he's like, oh my God, it's a dodo. We're going to win first prize at a science competition. They go to London to enter the contest. The whole big, that's the driving plot of the movie, is the adventure with scientists. So he is critical in that way. And just because a lot of people haven't had the opportunity to see it yet, doesn't mean that it's not a phenomenal movie. It's just a movie that didn't do well in theaters. The timing of when it came out, the fact that it was a UK movie originally, it didn't go through a boom here in the US, but it's still a phenomenal movie that once you get your hands on it, you'll absolutely appreciate it. Hands down, guaranteed, time again, as people do with all of Aardman's movies. I mean, Shaun the Sheep is phenomenal. It's sitting at like 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everything they do is just high quality, good stuff. Their one blip on the radar is Flushed Away. And even that's not a terrible movie. It's just not one of their best.
It sounds fantastic. It really sounds like a good movie, but is it the best? It is the best that Charles is of all stripes can get behind, and I would argue that it is not. Willy Wonka already takes that cake. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is Charlie's story from beginning to end. You get the fun character of Willy Wonka, but it's about Charlie's journey, his poverty to his exploration to his lesson at the end, and then he gains ownership of an entire factory. And as a Charlie, I aspire to own something.
And I think that's fair, but like when I saw this question, I wasn't thinking of it along the lines as saying the character in the movie had to be the crutch of the movie as well. And even like you were taking shots like saying Randall isn't a very important character, but I think that he is an important character because he's helping the company continue to, like, by developing the technology to continue extracting screams, like he's helping them along the lines to be able to do that. And like, I'm sure it could have been, it could be any character, but I feel like that could be the case for anything. These names are just arbitrary when it really comes down to it. And
Randall is such a flat character. Randall doesn't go through change. Randall's just kind of like he's a dick, right?
Yeah, he's kind of a jerk. But that's his character. Like he's a dick, but of course, like
at beginning, middle, and end, though.
Yeah, but and that gets fleshed out in Monsters University, but that's not.
You're not arguing Monsters University.
I would actually throw at you that Monsters University is the better Pixar Monsters movie. Like Monsters Inc. is all well and good, but Monsters University has that double level. If you,
I don't think it does though.
It absolutely does.
I don't know.
If you participated in Greek life in college, that whole section of the movie of them doing their own monster equivalent of Greek life is absolutely hysterical. I saw this movie in theaters.
It's fun and it's funny, but Monsters Inc. is like deeply emotional and
yeah, like the relationship between Sully and Boo, like that in itself, like is crushing. Like when you see them getting separated from each other, or just Sully coming in to scare, like to save her from the scream extractor.
Sully, that's fine.
But we're just talking about the movie.
So in defense of Randall, to make sure that this is clear, this is a best movie question, not necessarily the best movie starring a character with the name Charlie. So at the end of the day, I'll be judging it based on how much
the
your
quality
movie
of the movie
rates.
itself.
Yeah, and like when I think of Monsters Inc., it hits a whole different level to me because one, it's accessible to adults, children. It's humorous, it has heart, but at the same time, it's also educational. Like I remember us watching Monsters Inc. in our economics classes because it's a good way to like teach how economics and how companies and how that stuff works. It also it has like current event stuff in it, such as like the energy crisis, finding renewable energy without like this whole movie. They're sitting here propagating a lie so that they can continue using screams, even though they know the screaming like that fear and terror is down and on the human side of it, but they're still trying to propagate this lie just so that they can keep making their money. So, like, I think that this movie, it hits on a lot of emotional levels, intellectual levels, and it's definitely like I think it's one of the better Pixar movies. Like, they tried something like I would say this is like on the same type of level as like an Inside Out. Like, they tried something different. They showed us something different with this movie. Like, we see a different side of like kids always talking about monsters under their bed and you being afraid of them. Well, this is monsters being afraid of the things that we're afraid of. So like it's just showing.
Monsters Inc. is fantastic. I fully agree with that. I do think it's a classic. I think it's a classic in the Pixar stable, which is saying a lot. With Willy Wonka, it absolutely is something that showed the entire generations past it something completely new. The visuals themselves are imaginative and groundbreaking. The songs last forever in your heart. Pure Imagination is played at weddings. It's something that stirs the spirit and the soul. The morality that it's telling, it's not so much going for science, teaching kids about science, but it is teaching kids about morals and how to be a good person. And I think that's incredibly important.
All right, so that's her round has gone long, perfect timing, whatever. So it's a new feature. I don't know how to use it yet. But anyway, so Randall, here's what we're going to do. So Charlie, none of your arguments are invalidated by the semantics of the question. So everything
I'm a little confused. I feel like I got the question wrong.
No, it's okay. Everything you've said works perfectly in the vein of what we're trying to get out of the question anyway. So don't feel like you're out of it. You're not. So Randall, I have everything I need as far as Monsters Inc. So focus your final thoughts on mostly the other two movies and why your movies is the best of the three.
Personally, I haven't seen Pirates. Like, I've heard great things about it. I just haven't heard enough about it to make me want to really like. I guess I would like to see it personally because I like watching movies, but I just don't see it being something that I would recommend to people like if they wanted to watch a good lighthearted movie. Like, I think that like Monsters Inc. is something that is very easily digestible and works well in most situations. Willy Wonka, I think it could be hit or miss. It's a great film. I think in the sense that it can be hit or miss with the audience that's viewing it, depending on age. Like, I know some parts have always been a little like divisive among younger viewers, especially the tunnel scene and all that. But I just think in the grand scheme of things, I think Monsters Inc. would be a better film overall.
All right, Kim.
So I'm concentrating on the other two.
No, you can. No, that was just for Randall.
That was just for Randall.
Yeah,
okay, that's what I was just making sure.
Say whatever you like.
So, to Randall's last point, saying he wouldn't necessarily recommend it. When you haven't seen it yet, it's kind of disingenuous to say that you wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Once you do, I'm certain it'll win you over as much as it's won me over. And I think this is a phenomenal movie that so many people watching right now and that will come in to see this haven't seen yet, and this is an opportunity for them to expose themselves to it and enjoy it for the very first time. Charley and Chocolate Factory, oh, it's so good, everyone's seen it 1,000 times. This is a movie that's absolutely phenomenal, and that not everyone, because I've seen it, but most people have the opportunity to go and experience for themselves for the very first time. Look at the BFF that's going to be tonight. It's an opportunity to really introduce yourself to a new comedy and really just have a fun time with a great experience that you don't get in a lot of other places. Like this is a combination of humor and animation style that's not used in a lot of places in a lot of ways. Everyone sees Disney and DreamWorks and all of that, but this is something fairly unique, and it's something that should be experienced, and it's absolutely as good as anything else that's been brought up today.
Charley, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Pirates sounds really fun. I think it's something I'm glad that was presented to this audience because we're all going to check it out. But it is something that sounds like a romp. It sounds like a fun time. It doesn't sound like it really stays with you after the film is over. Monsters Inc. is great Pixar storytelling. It has heart. It has all of that. But what it doesn't have is what Willy Wonka excels at, and that is really getting to what being a child is like. And what being a child is like is terrifying. I love that there's that horror aspect to it. I love that you're kind of scaring children, not in a scared straight sort of way, but in a things can be overwhelming and messy because that's life. You're going through this tunnel, you're experiencing things that are coming at you, and you come out the other side. You learn things, you grow, you gain insight from your family. You come from literally a bed, like his shack of a house has just one bed where everyone lives, and he takes care of them. He's just an example for kids of all ages of what a good human being could be. But as a movie itself, it excels at visual storytelling. It's innovative with the use of the candy, with the Oompa Loompas. These are classic images that are in the public consciousness forever for a reason. They were original at the time, and they remain original. Willy Wonka himself is an amazing character, but Charlie Buckets is a character that excels by being truly good. And I think we need more movies like that put up goodness as a pedestal instead of what you gain or what you achieve. It's who you are as a person.
Fantastic. Well done, everybody. Let's go to Ash and Joe for our final fact check of the day. What do you got for me, guys?
All right. So, critically, all of these films are pretty well regarded. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy the Wonka and the Chocolate Factory wasn't critically regarded when it was first released, but it grew a following later. Box office wise, the Pirates, again known as the Band of Misfits in our market, it didn't have a good domestic turnaround here, but worldwide it did pretty good. It made over half its budget back. So, that would be considered successful. Monsters Inc. is the only one that has any kind of like Oscar win for Best Original Song. And then I looked up all the fates of the characters from the story Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. They do live in the book, and in the remake movie, that you actually do see them come back, where Goose's Gloop has lost weight. Violet's been returned to size, but she's still a blueberry color because they couldn't fix that. Veruca Salt is covered in garbage, and Mike TV is now 10 feet tall because the Oompa Loompas stretched him too much.
The taffy pull. Oh.
Yeah, but yeah, it's mysterious what happens to them in the 71 movie, but they do not die in the book or the remake.
What did Twitter have to say?
Lots of fun suggestions. Now, because of the nature of this round, some people pitched movies with people that they are named after in it. So we have Scott Pilgrim, Ghostbusters. There's let's see, Raoul threw like Rocky out there, and some other movie I don't know.
He said lots of Raouls are like have like a bad stereotype.
Eating Raoul for sure.
Clerks was also mentioned, which I suggested. Lots of fun picks for this round. I didn't keep up with nearly. Oh, Edward Scissorhands was brought up. The Mist.
I would have brought up Ashley J. Williams if Ashley was a contender.
It's in my nature to have answers for all the episodes because that's just how I roll. And I actually picked one movie with each contestant's name in it.
Whoa.
Yeah, if I had to pick movies with Jack in it, I'd be really struggling because Jack is such an uncommon name and is in like no movie ever. So I didn't play a long time. So guys, this
Robin
is
Williams movie called Jack.
Yeah, I know.
We don't talk about that movie.
We do. It's like Fight Club only.
Yeah.
So this was a tough. This is definitely a tough final round. It is a 2-pointer. I hate to feel like I'm picking on Kim because I'm going to Kim first. I think the only issue with Kim's is that everyone here, including BFF, hadn't seen it, and it's one of the ones they targeted. I think it's the movie everyone wants to see based on its description, but because of that, I think it's the difficulty. Like I want to see it now. Like I want to see that movie. But I think that wanting to see a movie and then knowing already that it's the best, like I can't make that determination until I see it. So it's not that it's not great. It's just that I don't think enough people are familiar with it to call it the best versus the other two, which means it becomes down between Randall and Charlie. Both of these are great picks. Once you kind of separate the meaning of the question, you can see how Monsters Inc. is definitely a contender with its different themes. Same thing with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I think that one of the things that sets one apart from the other is the slightly stronger narrative with better actors, I guess, to support them, especially with Gene Wilder. For me, it's really close, but I'm actually going to give it to Charlie and Chocolate Factory. That means that Charlie, you gain 2 points, and you are the winner of the day.
Thanks, guys. This was so fun. Oh my god, I have to watch that pirate movie immediately.
That last round was so hard.
I think that should count for something, that I convinced everyone in the room to want to watch that movie.
Oh yeah.
I think your argument would have gone a long way if you had put that David Tennant was in it.
Yeah, David Tennant's in it.
The voice cast is top notch.
Yeah, that third round was so hard.
Aardman does great stuff.
It's on Amazon if anybody wants to watch it.
It's like a $2.99 rental.
Yeah, you can rent it real cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. That's Willy Wonka was originally my second choice for that third round. So it was really hard for me to be able to try and argue against that one as well.
You did such a good job with Monsters Inc. though. I mean,
that was difficult just putting the information together for that one.
With the poll, Monsters Inc. won that round. 50% for Monsters Inc., 30% for Willy Wonka, and 20% for Pirates.
Guys, it was really well fought. And Kim, there's no shame in not winning that round. You did a great job today. I think your fighting was awesome. Everybody did a great job. Let's go around the room real quick and just let the internet know where we can find everybody. Randall, why don't we start with you? Where can we find you on the internet, man?
You can find me on Twitter at Randall Sands. Just come yell at me. I don't really have much going on right now. I'm sitting at home while I'm still looking for a new job. So,
well, you deserve one because you're awesome.
Well, thank you. I'm working. I'm working. That's what my day to day is. So
we had
right now.
We had the luxury of having Randall with us in Wizard World Philly when we did our championship last year. So definitely check that fight out because he makes a couple appearances in that. Kim, please tell us where we can find you.
So you can find me on Twitter at _Kim Hanley. Nice and easy for everybody. I'm always up for talking movies and TV and pop culture stuff in general. And then I'm going to be making a trip out to Ohio later this week. And then I'm doing Disney in 2 weeks. So if you're going to be in either place, reach out. We'll hang out in person.
Awesome. And you're on a couple other shows too. Did you want to plug them real quick?
Oh yeah, that might be useful for the. I'm on the Tech Podcast as well as Buck's Classics, and he's gonna love that I actually said the real title for once. Over on the Game Fixers channel, and then I'm also competing in Gamer Grudge, which is a lot like Fan Friction, but gaming themed. I'm gonna be fighting a championship fight in a couple of weeks. It's gonna be sometime in November, so that's gonna be a great time, and everybody should come check it out.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, you're gonna do awesome. You know a lot about games, so. And then Charley, please.
Thank you, first of all, for having me. This was so much fun. I knew I was going to have a really tough fight with Kim, but Randall, you were nervous, but you crushed, man. You did such a great job.
Well, thank you.
Like this.
He did awesome.
Yeah, this was so fun. But where you can find me right now on Twitter, sometimes I co-host Game Talk Live, which is a Facebook show about gaming. I'll be sometime in October. I'll be going back to movie fights or TV fights. I'm not sure which one, but I'll be there in October. And my first film that I directed is coming out sometime in the late fall, maybe December. So gotta go continue editing that. But it's Gem and the Holograms fan film. It's a lot of fun, a lot of colors. I think really fun songs.
That's on Chickbait, right?
It'll be on Chickbait, yeah.
Nice. And then you were just telling us before the show that you're going to be in Texas soon. Did you want to just plug that?
Oh, yeah. If anyone else is going to Fantastic Fest, I will be there from the 21st until the 26th. I'm not there the entire time, but I'll be running around doing some coverage there, and it should be a lot of fun. Some really great movies. The new Takeshi Miike film is going to be premiering. There's some other really good ones. The guy who did The Lobster, his new movie is going to be premiering there too. So,
oh wow,
it's going to be cool.
Awesome. So if you guys are in Texas, definitely meet Charley because she's awesome. I had a chance to meet her in California for fan fights on Screen Junkies, and it was awesome. So Ashley and Joe, you guys have a new BFF coming out. I think we know which one you're picking at this point.
You gave it away, Jack.
Yeah, which is fine. This is literally the only movie that we had not seen. Like every other movie, this is like the first time where it's like we had both seen everything. Sometimes it's like I haven't seen something, Joe hasn't seen something.
So in the past few episodes, it has been getting close. It's always like 2 movies or something like that.
And when you told me in the other chat like what the movies were, I'm like, oh no, like I've seen Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm like, wait, no, it's Pirates. That's a different movie. Okay, we have a show. I was really worried. It's like, what happened to everything? What are we supposed to do? We've never had this happen. That'll be on tonight at the TUFF channel live at 7 Eastern. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about the fight and just a good old time. So if anybody's watching now, please tune in for that because, you know, we love, you know, talking about movies and interacting with everybody that responded to the Twitter for Geek to My Nerd. We're going to put you in a drawing to win your choice of sticker of either BFF or Janine's lovely Nubia design, which if you follow Janine Devine, you can have an opportunity to help her win this TeePublic contest by voting for her design. It was #1 in sales, but she needs our help to get it to be #1 for votes. So please go look into how to do that to support our very good friend Janine, who does all of our logos for the TUFF channel.
Which you can see that logo as well for our group at geek_2_my_nerd or my_nerd on Twitter, which is our combined YouTube account. You can find me on Twitter. Combined Twitter account. You can find me on Twitter at Drake Masters.
And I'm at that_Mrs. Davis. And we also do have our own YouTube channel called Geek to My Nerd, where we've done a lot of game streaming in the past. And sometime in the future, we hope to upload some new content. But we kind of had to take a break from streaming all the time because school started and, you know, school trumps, you know, gaming. So.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much. Everyone did a great job today. We really appreciate it. I am, of course, Jack Shipley. You can find me at JRS Pitboy 2008 on Twitter. It's my gamer tag as well. So if you play video games and you want to game with me, that's where you can find me. And then I'll be here next week when we have another episode of Fan Friction where we welcome Lon Harris back to the show from the Screen Junkies channel, as well as Nolan Dean and Tom Bennis from Odd Shape Panel will be here. So it's going to be a great episode in 1 week. That's next Sunday. So please join us. And as always, we do the show because we love the Screen Junkies channel. If you're not familiar with them, please check them out. They are in the description below. And that is it. We will see you guys in a week. Thank you for joining us and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye.